Well, this morning, we are learning more about how America's top military leaders view the current state of the war in Ukraine. During a press briefing yesterday, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, offered a scathing review of Russia's campaign.
So across the entire frontline trace of some 900 or so kilometers, the Ukrainians have achieved success after success after success. And the Russians have failed every single time. They've lost strategically, they've lost operationally, and I repeat, they lost tactically. Russia changed their war aims in March and beginning of April. Their war of choice then focused on the seizure of the Donbass, the Donetsk and Luhansk Oblasts. That was their operational objectives, and they failed there. Then they changed again and expanded to seize Zaporizhzhia and Kherson. The strategic reframing of their objectives, of their illegal invasion, have all failed, every single one of them. Ukraine's a pretty big country. This is not a small piece of turf. And the probability of Russia achieving its strategic objectives, of conquering Ukraine, of overrunning Ukraine, the probability of that happening is close to zero. I suppose theoretically it's possible, maybe, I guess, but I don't see it happening militarily. So I just don't see that happening.
Wow. Meanwhile, the explosion in a Polish border town that killed 2 people is being called unintentional, both by Poland's president and NATO. Polish President Duda described it as an unfortunate accident, saying early indications suggest it was caused by Ukraine attempting to defend itself against Russian missiles. U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin backed up the Polish president's assessment. And joining us now, the Polish ambassador to the United States, Marek Magorowski. And thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, if you could just give us the latest on the situation, on what happened in Poland, the missile strikes. Is Poland feeling the full support of NATO from the United States, especially in its support of Ukraine in its war?
We now know for sure that that attack was not intentional. We mourn, of course, the loss of 2 Polish citizens. Nevertheless, we were very cautious in our choice of words and very adamant, stressing emphatically that any attribution of malign intent in this particular case would be premature and counterproductive. And again, I would like to say very clearly that our support for Ukraine, regardless of these circumstances, remains unstinted.
Mr. Ambassador, what are the greatest challenges facing Poland right now as we move as far as we've moved in to this war, and you've had so many migrants coming across the border? What do the people of Poland need from the United States and its NATO allies?
One of the most important challenges was the one we faced a few days ago after that incident in southeastern Poland. In my opinion, it is glaringly obvious that that tragic event would have not occurred had Russia not invaded Ukraine in the first place. And this is very important for us to stress it very openly and very clearly. Ultimately, it's the Kremlin which is responsible for all atrocities committed on Ukrainian soil since the beginning of that barbaric aggression. And going back to your point about various challenges Poland has been facing over the recent months, I believe that after that incident in Poland, it is my conviction, a very firm one, that the Polish authorities behaved very responsibly and maturely in light of these new difficult and unexpected circumstances. There was a string of phone calls between Polish and foreign leaders. It was a crash course in crisis management and coordination among allies, and I think that apparently we have all passed that test. And I think that if you ask me about our political and military cooperation with the United States, this bond has never been stronger.
Mr. Ambassador, you just said very clearly we know for sure that attack was not intentional, but given your proximity, obviously, to this war right on your border, what are your concerns that there could be an incident where Russia, whether intentionally or not, does hit Poland with a missile, either by design or by an errant missile, and what would come from that?
It has been a very intense experience for all of us since February the 24th, a war next door, and our attempt to help our neighbors defend themselves. And I think this should be our main priority right now, to keep pressure on Russia, to keep staving off this aggression, and also to convince the public opinion in the United States and in Europe that the Ukrainians are fighting not only for their freedom and for their sovereignty, but also for ours. And it is our common obligation to keep helping them fend off that invasion.
Mr. Ambassador, I want to underline a couple of things that you said. First of all, I heard from leaders across the area, across Europe, how remarkable Polish leaders responded to this crisis, heads down, shoulder to shoulder, in consultation with NATO allies. In a time of crisis for a country that has repeatedly been invaded and attacked throughout their history. So that was remarkable. I want you to underline, though, if you will, because we all know the United States and Poland, great allies after the wall fell, but there have been some ups and downs, twists and turns in this relationship. Let's underline again how remarkably close the United States and Poland are right now, and how they've become the absolute closest of allies in this moment of crisis.
Contrary to conventional wisdom, we are not so trigger happy as many in the United States and in Europe think. Stressing again that need of cooperation and coordination of all our actions. NATO has always been about trust, credibility, and reliability. And this week we had the opportunity to demonstrate again how credible, reliable, and trustworthy Poland is as a NATO ally. And again, we don't conceal the truth. We don't disinform. We try to be transparent, unlike our foes. And this is also a very distinct difference between what we do and what Russians do in the course of this conflict.
So important. Poland's ambassador to the United States, Marek Magorowski, thank you very much for being on the show this morning.
My pleasure.
Thank you
so much.